Two psychiatric patients froze to death in state care. Another needed brain surgery. A year without electricity, poor blankets, and dead communication lines. And these are the findings in a damning report by the Health Ombud, pointing to catastrophic management in the Northern Cape psychiatric facilities. In response, the Congress of the People has laid criminal charges against health officials, accusing them of murder and gross negligence. Joining us now is COPE's acting national spokesperson, Mr. Pex Dikgetsi, who is on the line with us right now. And Dikgetsi, thank you very much for joining us here on Power Lunch.
Thank you, Pabi, and good afternoon to you and to the listeners.
So you've accused the Northern Cape Health Department of murder. This is what, the case amounts to in your eyes. Are you saying government officials are directly responsible for the deaths of these patients?
If you look at the Ombuds report, it paints a very horrible picture of systemic failure, lack of oversight, and a just shocking disregard for human life. And to leave vulnerable psychiatric patients on the floor and freeze to death is a gross neglect of the oath that the health practitioners have taken. But it's not only the health practitioners who we know they themselves are actually under pressure because of poor management of the health service by those entrusted. I'm talking here about the HOD of the department, the CFO, and those who were meant to procure emergency equipment to be able to save life.
The Ombuds report says power was restored at nearby hospitals within days, but it took a full year at this mental health facility. What kind of explanation are the families even given for this delay?
Well, there isn't any explanation except for excuses and obfuscations. And all manner of diversions and deflections. As we speak right now, 6 days after the event, the Premier of the province has not even said anything. He has not uttered a single word of remorse, of anything. Now that goes to show the kind of leadership we have in the administration of the public health sector. That, put yourself in the shoes of other people to understand what they go through in this facility and many other facilities in the Northern Cape. Not even linen is sufficiently provided, medication, food. It's a horrible picture that people are subjected to on a daily basis.
We've seen the horrific case in the Esidimeni trials and what's come out of that. We've seen a lot of stories about little children who are perhaps not mentally well, and some of the places that they are almost resigned to, right? Because nobody quite knows how to care for them. And now we're talking about this place in the Northern Cape. I mean, if you're talking about hospitals around within days getting their electricity, but this one not getting electricity, does our government not care about people with disabilities?
Well, if you draw parallel with the Life Esidimeni case and the Kimberley situation, let's go back a little bit to the construction of the very same mental hospital that was meant to be constructed within 2 years. It took almost more than 10 years. It ballooned from a budget of 240 million to over 2 billion. Psychiatric patients, some of them that are in a worst case scenario, have been placed in the police cells. And it's rather mind-boggling and shocking that if you take the history of this mental hospital and what is currently happening, in fact, the health ombudsman refers also to the infrastructure and the state of the facility itself, that it is brand new. But you would think that it's a facility that was constructed 40 years ago. That's how negligent public have become, and they don't seem just to get it. One would have thought that people would have learned from the Life Esidimeni incident, but it just seems that things are just getting worse and worse. That's quite inhumane and quite shocking.
So I'm not going to even ask if this is just a Northern Cape issue. I completely think that this is an issue across the mental health care system nationwide, and also, because of who I've spoken to on this program, across healthcare and the healthcare system nationwide. So patients were given thin pajamas with substandard blankets. You've mentioned that, in freezing conditions. There's also the power issue, which we've spoken about. And COPE now has laid charges of murder, attempted murder, and culpable homicide. So which individuals or institutions do you want to see arrested and removed from office?
We want to see the HOD, the CFO, the head of the supply chain management. These are the people that are actually pointed out to bear responsibility, that they failed to procure life-saving equipment in time. They failed to provide the electricity, the resuscitation equipment, all the other clinical equipment that they failed to procure in time. Now, so these are the people that bear direct responsibility. We understand that, your doctors and some of your nurses and those that are in the clinical section of the healthcare system normally are actually staff of resources. And most of the time, resources go to management and to those areas of the healthcare system that are not really necessarily directly linking with the patients. Now, if we look at the Northern Cape Department of Health, since it was established in 1994 after democracy, it has never received a clean audit. It's been a Hollywood movie. Since 2019, the department has not had a full-time HOD and CFO. It's just been a revolving door of acting appointments. As we speak, the head of supply and all the senior and middle management are in acting capacity. And it's just about them. They don't see any emergency and focus on the hospitals, the clinics, and those kind of areas. And so these are the people that should really be held accountable. And in fact, our call would be to the Minister of Health is that the provincial administration under the leadership of Premier Zamanisong has failed this money. In 2019, he promised to have a Premier's monitoring office in the hospitals. He has not done so. So we would call on the Minister to place the Department of Health of the Northern Cape under Section 100 administration so that it is managed nationally by the Department of Health. Hopefully there will be improvements.
Beyond your organization and beyond the courtroom, is COPE pushing for any parliamentary or policy level action to prevent this from happening again?
Yes, certainly. In fact, we do not need to go to high-level Rolls-Royce type of policy positions like the National Health Insurance System. We need to start with the basics.
Right.
Now, this shows that if you don't get your basics right, you will not be able to drive a Rolls-Royce, in as much as ideally it is something that we want. But fix the basics so that people don't die. it's not an isolated incident, as you say. If you look at the medical legal claims against the Department of Law, they run into billions, showing that people are not doing the basics right. So we want to see, a professional public service that includes the health service to be able to perform optimally, to be able to do what is necessary and needs to be done on a daily basis. So that is quite important, to do the basics right, so that you can then graduate to a higher level, whether it is the NHI or any other form. That would be the ideal situation. But let's start with the basics right.
All right, let's keep you on the phone because we have plenty of people who'd like to engage with you and also talk about their own issues that happen when we talk about public health care in society. Mr. Pax de Geetzi, who is COPE's national chairperson, on the line with us right now on Power Lunch. It's time for the headlines.
Never miss any conversation. Download the podcast on power987.co.za and listen at your convenient time.
We're in the midst of a conversation, I think, that is one of the most gut-wrenching that a country can have. And 2 psychiatric patients have been frozen to death in state care. Another needed brain surgery. And in general, in the Northern Cape, there have been incredible issues in psychiatric facilities. And all over our country, we talk about the absolute lack of management and facilities for psychiatric facilities. So let's speak to COPE's acting national chairperson, Mr. Pax de Geetzi, who's on the line with us. And then we have Sthembiso, who phoned in just before it was time for headlines. So we'll squeeze you in here now. Hello, Sthembiso, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine, Papi. How are you doing?
I'm all right, thank you.
Yeah. I'd like to talk, obviously condolences to the families of the deceased. I wanted, the Prof to comment on, the barriers in as far as disability law is concerned and the role of the Department of Social Development, to this. You would find that families of people with severe disabilities, including, mental, health care, they send their loved ones to be cared for in institutions. And I think it is the system that pushes them to do so. Because, once a person with a disability, mental, turns 18, the family is no longer legally responsible for that person. It becomes, custody of the of the Minister of Social Development.
Okay.
And if you want curatorship, you have to go to a high court and apply for curatorship to be a guardian for that particular person. So it creates this barrier that, people cannot afford that, and there are just far too much barriers, and then they are pushed into institutions because there is also like a commercial incentive for the institutions. So I'd like him to have a look at that as well, the legal aspect, the disability, aspect, because also I cannot speak on behalf of my daughter who has a disability because the disability, policy is very individualistic. It assumes that a person with a disability is someone who's on a wheelchair because he was involved in some bike accident, right?
But still at 18, you'd have to go through some sort of process legally to be able to be a legal guardian.
Exactly.
Right.
High cost application,
right,
which scrutinizes you, your finances, your state of health. So basically it's very exclusionary because if you're poor and, if you're stressed out because you're looking after someone with it pushes people with severe disabilities in institutions that are commercial, and basically we end up with this situation.
Thank you very much, Sthembiso. So this is why we have a public health service, isn't it, Mr. Pax?
Absolutely. And let me take this opportunity to actually thank Sthembiso for bringing this matter up. And I think she has actually provided a quite excellent explanation in terms of what people need to do and what the legal status is. It becomes important for our state in its totality to be able to build public awareness, to be able to build capacity, both institutional and human, so that people are aware. And the reality, the fact that, people need to go through a legal process of a high court declaration and those things, those are very high-level type of things that ordinary people may not be aware of. And even, let us say, people that are in a very advantageous position may not be aware of. So we need a broader public awareness. Mental health, as she has put it, is something that seems to have been taken in the back burner. Yeah, and it's not, taken to the fore. And yet it's such a crucial aspect of the human condition and the services that the state needs to provide to citizens.
Let's have a listen to a voice note that's come through in our conversation.
Interesting and sad indeed. My thinking right now is if I was to be caught as Teboho, ill-treating either my child, my family member, or anybody with disabilities within my surroundings or within my premises or at my house, be it a family member, for example, I would be charged, I would be sentenced, and I'd be in prison.
Almost immediately.
But the state, to some degree, finds and feels where they have the right to ill-treat abilities. I don't understand that logic and concept behind all of that. I would what COPE is doing in this regard. This has gone on for far too long. And if we can't get the basics right, who are we? Teboho Poisons, my sister.
Thank you very much. Ntate Dikgetsi Teboho Poisons, if it was him doing any of those things in his home, to his child, to his mother, the police would be after him. But here we have an entire state just kind of getting along with it and not seeming to look behind when they've made mistakes exactly like this before.
Yes, I think Teboho describes the situation and the consequences that would follow if you were actually going to be doing that kind of a thing. Why would somebody who's entrusted, with the care of a vulnerable psychiatric patient not be held accountable? It can be as normal. Can be normal. Can be business as usual. Somebody must be held accountable. Now, when we look at the definition of murder, and so we had a discussion with the brigadier, who is the police station commissioner here, and we gave an example of last week somebody was arrested and somebody intruder in the house at night, and the owner of the property defended himself and his family, hit the person with an object, and the person died. The person has, the person was
the potential victim hits the intruder,
and is charged for murder.
Yeah.
So we say to the police commissioner that, but why is it that
who is the police commissioner now? Which one?
Yes, which one?
Yeah.
And so the reality is that we've got to get our systems right, and public safety, health safety, and accountability. Those are all crucial aspects that will move our democracy forward and our country forward.
Your final thoughts and your final words on this as we wrap up our conversation.
We need to ensure that the public does not sit back and look at it. And, today it may be that family. Tomorrow it may be me, it may be you.
Many years.
And we need to bring a stop to this thing. We need to raise our voices. We need to ensure that where we live, we make sure that we agitate and mobilize and organize such that people, management in these hospitals needs to improve. They just need to improve, and they need to do what the Constitution says, which is providing human dignity. human dignity, such that these vulnerable psychiatric patients are not, there's not a repeat of this. There's not a repeat of life esidimeni. There's not a repeat of what has happened, not only just here in the Northern Cape,
Yes.
but the problem is all over the country.
Yes.
It needs to
Yes.
change.
Thank you very much for your time and your patience, Mr. Pax Dikhetsi, who is COPE's acting national chairperson.